Hey guys, what is up? It is your boy Speed here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to crush the lane. I see a lot of players, especially offlane players, but don't worry, this video will apply to absolutely everyone, but definitely with offlane players, I see them making countless mistakes in a laning stage because they have the completely wrong mentality heading into it. And if you can change your mentality and change your perspective on what is important, you will become a 10 times better player. And therefore, that's exactly what I'll try to give you today. Just some really good rules of thumb to follow in your games to make sure that you're having more and more impact. Because I am sick of hearing it from offlane players and support players, whatever role it is, that they just can't have enough impact in a laning stage. They don't know what to look for, they don't know what to do, they overcomplicate the process, and so let's get into it. Before we do, smash the like button, subscribe, and of course, consider checking out the GameLeap website. We put a lot of effort into that every single day to put out new original content. Yes, you heard that. If you want double the videos, sign up to the GameLeap website. Alright, so the first thing we'll briefly discuss is starting item builds. Guys, just make sure your builds revolve around stats and regen 90% of the time. Now, yes, are there support heroes where you can buy boots and windlays and get away with it? Not only get away with it, but make it optimal? Absolutely. Yevster does it, a ton of position 4s do it all the time. But in this case, we're looking at a Slaughter. I really love his items. It's a nice balance between regen and damage. If you go one way or the other, where you buy too many tangos or too many salves or not enough damage, or just not enough regen, it's not good, so make sure you balance it out. The next thing I want to note is level 1 trading. It's something that I see a lot of people get wrong. A lot of players will say, oh, I'm playing a lane dominating hero, and therefore, if I go aggressive at level 1, I should win the lane, right? That's not true. More often than not, heroes are not that strong at level 1, and you'll take too much damage from the creep wave to even make it worth it. It's just not a good idea. And so instead, I'd like to look at the approach of Slaughter here. What he's going to do when approaching the lane is walk up and actually secure the range creep. Yes, he actually pushes it in. Now, why would you do this? Especially in a lane like against Spectre. Honestly, I think you could argue he could keep the lane back here, but the range creep was dying anyway. So there is one major thing to note when you secure the range creep early on into the lane. It means you can pull creep aggro onto your range creep and use it as a bait. It also means you can trade against the opponent because you won't get pounded by a range creep. And so after they secure that range creep, because it no longer exists and it is no longer there to protect the Spectre, yes, protect the Spectre, I really mean that, he can go back and start denying the wave. And this is really nice level 1 laning. People get too caught up in trading and hitting and punching. That is for later on in the lane when you have a level or item advantage. If you do this at level 1 and you just start going ham on people when you don't have some crazy level 1 lane, I don't even know, like Prophet Clockwork, and you catch someone out of position, fine, maybe go on them, right? But or like if you're playing Slaughter and you take your stun level 1 and they fight you at the rune, okay, stun them 8 times in a row, but for the most part, this isn't the way to go. In fact, you can see it right here with the Mirana. She's trying to do too much for no reason, and the Mirana's a great player, don't get me wrong, rank 65, I'm not here to ram a rank 65 player, I'm just saying that he's trying to do a lot, and sometimes this is a good thing, it's just about calculating when it's a good thing, and it's much better if the Mirana just waits, because she only has arrow right now, right, no leap, very dangerous for her to play the game. It's very important for her to make sure that the zoning that she's doing is in combination with the Slaughter, otherwise this is what happens, she just gets bopped down by a really nice play from the Spectre and the Treant, and all of a sudden the lane goes from a potentially very winning lane to, funny enough, an even lane. And that's just by trying to do a little bit too much, and that could have came from the Slaughter or the Mirana. The next thing I want to mention, even though this example doesn't really show how impactful it can be, it still shows, a mindset that the player has. And that is pressuring based around range creeps. In high MMR games, the most contention in the laning stage will always happen around range creeps. That is where people fight. Why? Well, range creeps are worth the most gold and XP, so obviously them getting denied is the biggest deal, but also it's because when someone has to secure a range creep, they have to walk up far, and when someone has to walk up far, that's when you can hit them the most. And therefore, you'll often see in these high-level matches people pressuring range creeps. So right here, instead of necessarily going for the deny right away, what he can look to do is use this bash that he's prepped. And honestly, I think he could have approached a little bit earlier to prevent the range creep from getting into CS range with Spectral Dagger. And so he could have went a little bit earlier. I think he tried to secure it there. He realized, shoot, I'm too late. And I can't bash the spec anymore. And therefore, he instead just secured the creep. Following that up here, I really like this next kill attempt. It makes a lot of sense. Why? It's because it's based around a spike. Slaughter has one of the hardest level 2 spikes in the game. He has 2 stuns. Most heroes at level 2, I mean, they're good, but a lot of heroes spike at level 3. Slaughter's good at level 3 too. His bash doubles, it's very impactful. But level 2, with the stun and a bash, it's very hard to trade into him. And so right when he gets this, he preps a bash. The treant slightly oversteps as he, preps the bash. Now he's going to only stun when the bash ends, right? And they nearly get the kill. Now they don't get it, but that's the thing, right? Pros are not perfect. By the way, this Slaughter is a ranked 300 player. Pros are not perfect by any means, but they make plays, even though they don't know exactly how they're going to go. They make plays based around their timings. And so you might be saying, well, Speed, I don't know my timings. And that's where, I'm not going to cover that in this video. I would literally have to go over every single hero and when they're strong based upon whatever the matchup is. And that, that knowledge comes into play when you play thousands of matches of Dota and watch thousands of hours of Dota. That's knowing every matchup in the game. But, now that you're scared out of your mind, it's okay. Because every hero has their own spikes. And that's what I want you guys to play around. If you're struggling to gain MMR and you feel like you're playing too passive, know your spike. So look it up, go watch one of my videos on whatever hero, or just start experimenting. Click on the hero and say, I think it's strong right here. And when you hit that spike, go aggressive. Tell your support, I want to go aggressive at level 3. Tell your support, I want to go aggressive at level 4. I want to go aggressive when I get my first Wraith Band, right? Whatever it is. Even if it's phase boots, it doesn't matter. Just think about it and go for it. And the next thing here is playing also with your teammates. In the laning stage, if you do not play with your teammates, you're just going to feed. You're not going to do nearly as much. And if you get to high MMR at any point in your career and you can't synergize with your teammates, well, actually that makes no sense because you wouldn't have gotten there in the first place. So whenever people tell you, I don't trust my teammates, that's so bad. You have to go into every game trusting them so that you can actually synergize your spells. If you can't synergize your spells in the laning stage, you will never be good at Dota. The next thing I'd like to note about this Slaughter gameplay in particular is his item build. You notice that his items make sense. The enemy lane doesn't cast too many spells, and so he will buy a wand eventually, but it's not the first item he bought. That's the number one thing to know. Do not rush a magic wand unless you're playing against a Bristle or like a Bat Rider. It's much better in that case just to buy a stick if it's some sort of in-between lane. In this lane, I mean, they cast a decent amount, but it's not enough to make it really worth it in his opinion. Also, he believes he can win this lane. You can tell he's playing very aggressive. And therefore he buys a Gloves of Haste and a Bracer. Makes a lot of sense. Doesn't rush boots. The only time you rush boots is if it's like very specific for your matchup. Maybe you're playing Clock and that's your literal damage item. Or if you're dumping the lane, then you can rush boots because it really lets you crush the lane. But if it's even-ish like it is in this matchup, or slightly favored, it's better to buy an item like Bracer and Gloves of Haste, and that's exactly what he does. And because of that, he lives on a slimmer of HP and is able to pop his salve. And then on top of that, there's a couple more things to note. Really, I even want you guys to sort of look at it. Look at the CS chart. How often, and go to Lowmark Games, how often will you see a Slaughter at the top of the chart? Slaughters are very rarely at the top of the CS chart because people are too focused on getting aggressive. That's how you never win as Slaughter. Slaughter needs items more than other heroes, funny enough. More. Because the hero doesn't have a good way of farming mid-game, so if you don't farm in the early game in a laning stage, you might never farm. And that goes to show that people really have the backwards mentality. If you can't ever farm mid-game, and you miss all the CS or just ignore them because you're trying to put pressure in the laning stage, you're never going to have a game. You'll fall off, and you'll be like, why doesn't my carry me? After you just have no impact and can't threaten anyone. And so yeah, anytime you're playing a hero like Slaughter, or even if it isn't Slaughter, focus no matter what the lane is, no matter how hard it is, how easy it is, on CS and denies. Creeps matter a lot. Kills matter too, they do. And pressure is his number one priority. It's just pressure in the right times. It's pressure based around these item timings. It's pressure around the fact that Spectre has to commit to creeps at some point. So there's no need for him to chase. There's only a need for him to keep the lane back, pressure denies, and bait the Spectre to walk up. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. You see his movement? Really watch this, guys. I'll put it in slow motion. He's walking back and forth, trying his best to zone the Spectre off. Spectre throws a dagger. He's like, shoot, this guy's pressuring me. Now the dagger goes into a weird spot. It doesn't secure that melee creep, so he denies it. This creep, he's going to threaten to deny. He sees the Spectre's going to walk up, right? So what does he do? He threatens the Spectre and gets the deny. And he does not have to chase. Too often do people say, oh, I'm having a good lane. I'll just chase. You know when you can chase? When people have to go for bounty runes. Because when people have to go for bounty runes, they have to overextend. Right now, all of a sudden, the Slaughter doesn't have a good way to disengage. He doesn't have a creep wave protecting him, and the tower is really far away. And so this kill attempt makes a lot of sense. In fact, it makes perfect sense. So if you're really trying to win the lane, times like this, right, the rune fights are actually the best time to get kills. And now, after all is said and done, I want to ask you guys a question. Now that he's had a good start, what should he do? Should he roam? No. More often than not, if you have a good laning stage in Dota, what I highly recommend you do, 9 times out of 10, is you go to your lane and you actually run at the enemy carry. So in this case, they find the Spectre, they kill the Spectre. Because more often than not, if you win your lane, the best person to pressure is the person that you beat. A lot of people get this wrong. They're like, oh, I won my lane, I'll just leave now. I'll go somewhere else, I'll pressure somewhere else. Not necessarily, right? Why not continue to crush the person you've been crushing the entire time? After all, if you beat them in the lane, you probably can beat them after the lane as well. So just keep that in perspective. I think a lot of people have this bad habit when they're playing off lane to say, oh, the laning stage is over, I better roam. And then the enemy carry gets like 9-10 minutes of free farm in the safe lane, or wherever they're going, and it's an absolute disaster. And by the way, that's not to say you can't leave your lane. It really just depends on the circumstance. In this case, he really wanted to run to Spectre, clearly, right? They want to pressure Spectre as much as possible. Also, he's sort of switched to becoming a support right now, which is a high MMR concept in my opinion. It's very uncommon to see this in other pubs, but basically his goal right now is to enable AM. And AM had a very meh start, very low CS, no deaths, but low CS. Also, he has a Brewmaster. Brewmaster has to farm level 6 to have impact, so that's what the Brewmaster is doing. Nature's Prophet is naturally just going to split push and TP in only when he has to. And so all in all, the Slaughter has assumed the role of fighter at this point. Why? Because he has a very greedy Brew, not necessarily in a bad way, but a greedy Brew that needs to hit level 6. He has a Prophet, very greedy hero as well, and an AM, another very greedy hero. And so even though he ends up going down, because he's very tanky, because he has a Bracer and a Wand and so on, it creates enough space to the point where, they can even look for a kill onto the bottom, right, onto Rubik here. Now they don't end up getting it, the Rubik makes a very nice play. You guys see what I'm saying? You don't have to roam, make some crazy insane play to become good at Dota and make space. If you want to become good at Dota and make space, the first thing you should learn how to do is implement what I said when it came to the laning stage. You should learn how to CS well and buy the right items at the right time and pressure at the right times and not overextend. And when you combine this all together, you begin to crush your games of Dota 2. And yeah, that's where I'm going to end the video. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope this gives you some motivation, some perspective on high MMR thinking when it comes to the laning stage, because I don't think a lot of people have direction when it comes to the lane. And when you have direction, when you learn to have direction and understand what actually wins the lane, it's not just kills. Kills matter, but it's not just kills. It's kills at the right times. You really do crush people. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do like, subscribe, help our channel grow. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Before you leave, just want to say a quick message. If you're trying to get better at Dota or you just enjoyed that video, I know this is pretty general and you're going to hear this quite a bit from me, but I recommend you sign up to GAMELEAP.com. Why? Because I put a lot of effort into the content over there, and generally the effort I do there is different from the content you're going to see here on YouTube. It is different. In fact, I usually go a lot more in depth on topics or into niche topics that help you get to the next level even faster. Because on YouTube, I often have to keep it more mainstream, and that's even why I'm putting it at the end of this YouTube video. That's why this is at the end, because a lot of people just watch 5 minutes, they skip through just for like the dopamine spike. But if you are interested in actually getting better at Dota, I recommend you go to the description down below, get your discount right now by clicking the link, sign up, use the discount code that you're going to see there, and I hope to see you there right now. So click it, and yeah, thanks for watching.